Okay. So we run it from here now, yeah?
Yeah, we are live. Technically, we don't have an intro screen. Max and I are going to transfer our paid subscription to StreamYard.
Technically, we don't have what?
So we're gonna get the premium version of StreamYard going into next week.
Okay.
But for this week, we don't have an intro screen. We're just gonna basically talk while we're live, while we're preparing. But
wait, we cannot share screen or what?
Oh, we can. Yeah, everything's as normal. I'm just saying we're live now, so people can watch as we prep for the show that starts.
Okay. Can you see if anyone joined? Not that we say something silly.
Yeah, we do have a couple people, but no.
We have a couple people.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, so I need to be careful what I say now. Anyway, I was planning to check. There was a request for what? For ENS and what else?
Where did you see it? Was it in our chat room?
There was somewhere, yeah.
I saw ENS a couple weeks ago, actually. I wonder if the same person wants another update.
Wait, was it a couple of weeks ago?
I haven't seen any requests.
Do you know what they asked for today?
Oh, no, I didn't see anything today. Let me check.
Indeed. It was, sorry, it was indeed a few weeks ago, yeah.
No worries.
But I'm curious about ENS too, because we still have holdings there. Oh yeah, now actually things are look a little bit more critical with positive rates. Let me see. Oh, quite severe divergences too. Okay.
So everything looks good on the stream end. We have sound,
Excellent.
We have picture.
I love it. It was pretty simple to set up, it seems. Not sure I love the lighting in this room, though. I look so shiny. Let's try one. That helps a little bit.
Mm-hmm. It's 200,000 and from 100,000.
You want to try screen share so people have something to look at?
Yeah. Bless you.
Yes, thank you. May I be blessed.
ETFs, we're going to talk Bitcoin sentiment. We're going to listen to Max and blow his nose. Oh, I put together, I'll explain when we go, what we already are live, but I'll explain when we are going through this chart. I'll wait for Max to get back, but this thing is pretty cool. By the way, Max, when you see us live, do you see, as I'm showing my screen, do you still see my face and Max's screen?
Yeah, we got moved to the side, basically. I think in
Awesome.
StreamYard we are seeing the exact same thing.
Yeah, that's perfect. That's what I wanted.
I'll probably drop off stage when you're starting, so you get more room for the cameras.
I wonder if there's a way we can still hear you, because I like when you're able to ping us or quickly interrupt if there's a question.
Good point.
I really don't mind if your blank screen still stays, but maybe I can adjust your settings. Yeah, all I can do is edit your name, kick, or ban. But I can change the layout here. How does this look? Looks like that just moves you from the bottom to the left.
Yeah, the other one is better, I think, this side one.
This one makes it so none of us can be seen, right?
Yes, looks like.
There's just me. There's all of us. There's us in a big format.
Can you just hide me and show the
Yeah,
preview?
I'm trying to. It doesn't. You can see right here. It says I can remove you from stage, solo layout, or unmute.
Okay, then we just keep it this way.
It's fine. Yeah, I think I'd rather us be able to hear you when you see questions and stuff as we talk. Not a big deal. Maxim, I was going to show you this. So I found a good one-for-one comparison. So if I go back 6 months, I'll even go a little longer. It's interesting. Yesterday, these were almost perfectly parallel, but maybe that's changed.
Data mutability.
Yeah, exactly. But when I add a little more to the bearish side than to the bullish side, so I'm adding bearish lower or below, and I don't include the word bullish for the red side, they're actually pretty even, and that allows us to use shared axis.
Yeah.
Because there's always a bit of a bullish bias. So I was going to show sentiment from that standpoint because it's a better one-for-one comparison.
By the way, Brian, what happened to your microphone? Today you sound not as good as usual.
Yeah, I've got a mic.
You're not using it at the moment?
Exactly.
Okay.
Let me see if I can. I might be able to get it really quick. If I sound that bad, maybe it's worth it. I have a new desk coming, so. Yeah, it'll be too much. It'll be too much work today. I'm still. You can hear me okay, right? It's just not as good. Yeah, I'll wait until next week because I just don't have the right desk set up. I'd have to like hold the microphone while I talk. But yeah, next week we'll be back to normal, full quality, and we'll have the full setup. Okay, so we'll talk price returns. We'll go sentiment.
Max, how is it to be back in Germany?
Oh, with the current weather, very nice actually. We had a very rainy season in Portugal, and now.
So you kind of escaped rain and you came to sun. True, yeah. Yeah, now we've been also to Amsterdam for this event. Was very good weather in the north. Wow, very good. Every day in just pure sun, not a single cloud. You have the same in Hamburg now? Very sunny?
Oh yeah, in Plön. Yeah, it's very enjoyable at the moment. I can take a lot of walks.
Do you know, or did you
always
visit
nice, but so short.
Any crypto events in Portugal?
Yeah, I think there's ETH Lisbon, but it's always like a short time after I leave, I think, or something, somewhere around that time. Yeah, I have to check it before I go next time. Do some pre-planning.
Okay. When are you coming back next time?
Oh, not sure yet, but I assume in January again.
Oh, okay, long time. What is this duck on the top right corner with, I don't know, is it earphones with S? Is it styled for sentiment or what?
No, it's just their StreamYard logo. So we'll have the premium version next week, and that'll.
No, it's actually looks almost like a sentiment because it has S exactly as we have.
It's true. Maybe we should ping them and see if they're interested in a partnership.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, I'd say we can just kick it off since we've been live already.
But no, give few minutes. People, I think they join in or expect to join in 3 minutes, right?
That is true. Oh, I need to actually, I need to make the quick announcement. So 1 moment.
Yeah. See? Here it comes.
I know.
Well, I have nothing against talking to you. It's always a pleasure to chat.
Probably helps if people know that this stream exists, though.
Mm-hmm.
True. Away for 1 minute. Back.
By the way, Brian, I posted in our marketing channel about boosting Telegram. Somehow I knew it exists, but never pay attention. Do you also have how it says verified account on Telegram?
I don't think so. I've always used a free one, but I'll look into that after the show.
Yeah,
that's a good idea.
Yeah. Well, Gary now boosted, yeah. I wonder, Max, if you have a verified account.
No, I don't think so. Is it like a paid, like a subscription?
Yep.
No, I don't.
It's quite cool because I was not able to buy in Germany and Switzerland. I think it's a kind of not allowed, but the moment I was in Thailand, it allowed me to say, oh, cool. So I bought it from Thailand. And for me, it's only very useful. I use one feature, probably there are more, I have more folders, more than 10, and 10 by default. And I like to organize stuff. And now I find out, actually I can boost. So I boosted our channel too.
So it's convenience features that got you.
Yeah. Surprisingly, yeah. Who could have thought? Yeah.
All right, guys, you want to kick it off? I can introduce. Okay. All right, for those who have been waiting, there's been no intro to this video, so you've already been watching us prepare, but we're happy to be live on our new platform. We'll be using StreamYard going forward. If you see any irregularities, of course, let us know, but we're looking forward to chatting markets today on what has been another pretty good week. We're really trying to climb toward those higher highs. Bitcoin is surprisingly close to its January 19th all-time high, and we've got a lot that we can go over today. But to kick it off, Maxim, how are you and how have you been seeing the markets?
Hi, Brian. Glad to be stable for some time again, so we can have this Friday talks. Of course, it's concerning that we are kind of long time on the positive side. When you're a long time in crypto, you feel suspicious. Why are we so long time? Yeah, but maybe it's just emotional. We'll see into the data. I think we're not the only ones, or I am not the only ones who feel concerned. If we get confirmation, we'll see if like age consumed or network realized profit losses or high deposit to exchanges going on. Good. Then we are not the only ones people concerned, so market can push higher. But definitely need to keep, or like MVRV, I actually didn't check a long time. It was no needs to check MVRV for listeners how much in profits on average hodlers are, because there were no profits for quite some time. Now I think there are, and we know, at least in 30 days, moment we get 120, 130, it's already getting into dangerous territory. Need to see, yeah. But it's there is a saying that not saying, experience that the strong move sometimes can happen at the end of the move, on when warring, just to convince and induce how to say induce, introduce into your nerve system the FOMO, strong FOMO. We'll see.
Yeah, I think that's a good assessment. We're certainly at a point where it seems like the markets are being a bit defiant based on everything that's going on. Of course, the biggest news was the tariff pause, which happened Sunday night where I was, Monday morning for many Europeans watching. And of course, that was before markets opened. That's the classic move that we've seen over the past month and a half.
Become classic, yeah.
Yeah. So we saw markets erupt on Monday. The S&P went up like 3.2%, and it really hasn't slowed down. We've seen just about a complete rebound from the early April dump from when we first saw markets crash, and now we've kind of hit the reset button, and people are going, okay, we still have these tariffs looming. They have not been removed. They've been paused. So how much of this is buy the rumor, sell the news, or how much of this is real because we're so confident that Trump and China will resolve their differences and the trade war will be over in 90 days? It's obviously impossible to predict. Maxim and I are not in Trump's inner circle at the White House, but we've seen this a little bit so far. Where there's some sort of pause on tariffs. He did the same thing with EU within the first week, and then markets exploded. But the tariffs are still there. And as we get closer to that 90-day expiration date, if it waits that long, we may see a lot of panic as people realize the deadline is getting close and nothing's changed. So that's going to be the main market driver, barring something else happening in the world. But the macroeconomic situation is still kind of the leader of where markets go for both the S&P and crypto. And we'll try to check out some of the metrics here and kind of look at what the returns have been, how social metrics are reacting, and some on-chain stuff for Bitcoin. And I think Ethereum would be worth it because it's been on such a good run.
Yeah.
So here we see the past 7 days, we see Ethereum up about 9.5%. And then we see other stuff like Trump meme, things like that. And it's interesting because the large and mid caps have done pretty well. But as you get to the, outside of the top 50 or so with Ondo and official Trump actually dropped a lot.
But wait for the moment, Max or you, Brian, where can I see what you're sharing? Somehow it's not different.
No, it's on me. I didn't have it on shared.
Okay.
Still getting used to things here. My fault.
Okay, now there is something.
Yes. So as I was showing, there are a decent amount of positive returns still in the top 50. But once we trail off, notice how we see a lot of red here. And that goes beyond just these past 70 or so market caps. There was definitely a weight toward the top 50. So this is very top heavy what's going on this rally. And that tells me there's a little less speculation toward more of these speculative assets that are not getting as much greed as you would think. Last week when we updated, memes were just all over the place, and we saw Bitcoin profit redistribution going into all sorts of new assets that most of us have never heard of. Now it seems to be very top heavy, with Ethereum still being the notable gainer. This is a meme coin here. We have, Pi, Hyperliquid doing okay, but it's kind of all over the place. And I believe that the sentiment is actually a bit cautious right now, which is a good thing if you're staying bullish and you're hodling. This justifies that we can climb a little bit further, because the temperature of the crowd is not through the roof greedy right now. I also prepared this chart, which is the ETF inflows and outflows. And this is still looking pretty good. We've got, over the last couple of full days, more positive inflows. And only, it looks like Monday and then like the last 2 Mondays were like the only notable outflows. Even this, I believe, was a Monday or Tuesday. So going back till mid-April, inflow days just about every day. And that has absolutely fueled this rally. Yes, we've been looking a little toppy right here, but I like to see that the inflows are continuing to go into the Bitcoin ETFs right now.
Brian, what do you think? Now, when I look at this chart, it reminds me there is a correlation, but the causation is not obvious. It's more like I see currently we're forming divergence, so inflows are getting smaller.
Yes.
Whatever it means, need to observe it. Then I do see that outflows, the last ones, okay, they coincided with the bottom, but we had outflows before, which were not a final bottom. So I'm trying to understand from point of behavior analysis, how should we read this data? It does represent attitude of, I think...
institutionals.
Yeah, institutionals. Or broader public, let's put it this way.
Right.
So it should form some specific pattern. And I see that in the middle, you see it was April, end of April.
Yeah.
Very strong inflow.
Oh, right here, end of April. Got it.
Yeah, so it's a kind of, when I'm thinking about typical behavior pattern, it's a point of recognition or confirmation where crowd is very super most excited, and they're generally right, because it's the middle of a trend. And then we start forming divergences, which typically build the top. It takes some time. And so I'm thinking now, and then we're coming back to where we started. Are we in this divergence building phase here? Because what you see on the chart, it's a kind of clear divergence. The tops are being made, but the inflows are getting lower. So we need to keep it in mind when we analyze or when we visit other metrics. As you know from me talking, whenever we're talking or changing ideas, for me, the divergence pattern in crypto is the most powerful one, because I don't think many people using it when you apply all major metrics. Maybe on one like RSI people, probably they use it, but we apply the whole range of metrics like network activity, social volume, social dominance, trading volume, and now inflows into ETF. So we need to be now, when we go to others, careful and mindful. Do we see divergences in other metrics too? If we do, well, I will change my opinion to more bearish one. If it's the only one, okay. The only one doesn't matter much. Okay. I wanted to share with you because I was looking at it. I was already noticing it last week, but it was a few weeks ago, but it was too short data. And now when I look into the last weeks, the whole April, it reminds me.
Completely agree with you, Maxim. I think it's a good point. And we've seen several examples over the last 6 months where the inflows have kind of shrunk and prices ended up topping out, or they were already going down. So it's not like it's not like prices continue to go up as long as there's inflows every day. We've seen examples of it dropping. Here was another example where we were still climbing, but you can see the inflows dropping at the end of March. And eventually we dropped down. So I think that this is a concern that we've gone from, $880 million inflow these 2 days to, 675 here. We're now at 284. The last day was about 115. So very soon we could start going negative again. And when we see negative outflows, that almost always leads to a drop. Just about every single day I highlight, we can see prices going down that day. So yeah, that's definitely something to watch. I also just checked out the volume, and this is similar to what you mentioned, Maxim. Pretty big divergence of less and less volume. Of course, volume just means the overall amount of money being traded on the ETFs. It's not the inflows and outflows, but it's still showing that people are becoming less excited on this uptrend. And TA traders out there will be the first to say when there's a fade in volume based on the direction of the price, that usually halts that direction. If there's an increase in volume, that can add to the rally, like we saw at the end of February of 2024, way back here. Notice how volume was just rising, 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 and then finally you see it drop between early March to mid-March, and that's where we topped out. So ideally, we'd be seeing a rise in volume, not a fall. So that concerns me. It doesn't mean we're going to dump like crazy, but it means that we're probably getting close to a top unless the ETF volume and the inflows start to gain steam again. Another thing I wanted to mention, so moving on to more of the main sentiment stuff on social media. I have this chart here, which is kind of a one-to-one comparison. Since there's a bullish bias on social media, I'm using a few more words for the bearish side than I am for the bullish, not because I want to skew the data, but because you can see that they're very, very close here when I use this combination of words, bearish, lower, or below, versus just bullish.
And these two bars, just to understand and to explain others watching the stream, it's a total volume over the whole selected time range.
Exactly. So this is just 6 months, all of the blues versus all of the reds.
Then it's good because we were at the top, we were at the bottom. Yeah, so it should be more or less on the same level. Good point. Okay, continue.
Yeah, it was even more even when I looked yesterday, but it's close enough where I would call this a pretty good one-to-one comparison, and we can actually use shared axis. And essentially, you want to look for moments where the blues are exceeding the red, because that means the crowd is getting bearish in bottoms form pretty consistently. When that happens, you see it very well here in early April. You see it here at the end of February. This was not my favorite, but this was also a good signal way back in November. Right now, we're seeing
it seems to be working quite well for bottoms.
Okay. Exactly. So right now it's a pretty even split where it's one day it might be a little bit more red, one day it might be a little more blue. Yesterday was more of a fear day than a greed day, which is good. But it doesn't look like people are leaning either way. It looks like there's a lot of battling between the bulls and the bears here, Maxim. So we're kind of waiting to see which will start to emerge again. And that probably depends on what direction price moves next. And we can also see by platform whether one platform is getting more antsy than others. Telegram has definitely been more bullish for quite a while. Reddit, the opposite, which is interesting. The reds are very much higher than the yellows here. That represents bearishness. Twitter/X, a little more even. They have a bullish bias right now.
Wait, on Twitter, which color is the bullish and bearish?
Yeah, every legend is different. So you can see on the top left of each chart, it's showing the blue as bearish in this case, red as bullish.
But it worked quite well for, actually it looks like on the Twitter looks pretty well because the bottom was blue and the top was more or less red, actually quite red, yeah, and also on a spike in volume.
Agreed.
Makes sense.
And Twitter has the most social volume out of any two, so it makes sense that it's the largest sample size. But yeah, I would agree. If you want to look at one platform for alpha, it seems as right now Twitter's the best one. And it seems there's still a bit of a bullish bias, which isn't
even though not extreme, yeah.
Yeah, just mild.
Yeah.
4chan looks like they flipped, but there isn't that much social volume. This is a pretty small sample. Bitcoin Talk has a bit of a bigger sample. They're more bearish. And Farcaster is kind of back and forth, very small sample size. But yeah, it looks like there's just kind of a battle right now. We've reached full polarization here, Maxim, where the bulls and bears are equally vocal when you compare these terms.
Yeah.
I also did a quick check on price calls for Bitcoin itself. This is just 10K all the way to 69K and 100K to 159 with the addition of 250, which Maxim and I saw as
I think we need to move 100K now into bearish territory.
Very good point. No, I actually had it.
Yeah, I thought you had it.
I did, but it was on another computer.
No worries.
It's okay. We don't need to go through it. It was also pretty mixed, pretty flat between bulls and bears. But we can see on Sandbase the positive versus negative commentary.
Yeah.
And it's quite positive right now. It has been for the past 3 days. So take that for what you will. It does look like there's a pretty bullish bias forming, which, you know, this has been pretty accurate, especially when it gets extreme, like here, or even here on the bottom end. I have these lines plotted, so anything above is definitely more bullish than usual. Anything below is more bearish than usual. So this looks a bit toppy here for sure. Can ignore that one. I want to look at whales for a moment.
Yeah, let's check. I wonder if the small hodlers, they were decreasing, not necessarily dumping, but their balances were decreasing for quite some time.
Right. Yeah. So the red,
yeah,
the red line is the small holders.
They're still decreasing.
They're still decreasing. They're taking profit with the assumption that this is the top and they can buy back later.
Do you believe they could be now buying with ETFs? Is it possible?
If there's anyone that's really moving into ETFs, it's the institutionals, in my opinion. The small holders, if anything, they have less to risk. And many people moving to ETFs are the ones who are afraid of, you know, getting hacked or even holding crypto and having to be responsible for their own keys. So logically, I've thought about this. I think the people owning, you know, a few $100 or tens of dollars worth of crypto, they're more likely to just risk it and hold real crypto. But the people holding a lot of money, millions of dollars, they're the ones who want to be in ETFs. So yeah, I think this is pretty heavily weighted of real on-chain holders, whereas the institutionals, they're still holding a ton of crypto, but they're also holding a lot of ETF money right now. So it still seems like a pretty bullish argument to me in this case, because this green line with 10 to 10,000 BTC, we go back just about 4 weeks, they've accumulated about 55.5K more Bitcoin, about a 0.41% rise. And we've seen how correlated this line is with price. When they go down, so does price. When they start to accumulate again, price goes back up. You can see they flattened out here, dumped a little, and price went down again. Of course, that was skewed by the tariff news. And then they pretty much since April 7th, which was the bottom, they just went on a huge accumulation run and price followed. And they're kind of flat over the past few days, but this still looks like a pretty, you know, solid long-term accumulation pattern for them. So yeah, if you're bullish, this is probably one of your best arguments that we still may rise toward that all-time high.
Yeah.
Like I said, though, the bullish sentiment here is still the biggest concern. 4 out of the last 5 days, they've shown a pretty big bullish bias. I also still have this chart up about social dominance and the comparison between layer 1s, 2s, and meme coins.
Take maybe a bit, yeah, exactly, a longer time frame.
Yeah, so it's a little noisy.
Where do we have it now? Yeah. So
layer 1s are kind of in the middle. They definitely were much more prevalent as we started to rally in mid-April. Layer 2s up and down. But meme coins, they've dropped back down. So this kind of validates what we showed on the screener here, where outside of the top 50, there's not a ton of speculative asset pumps going on. It's very top heavy right now.
Indeed.
So to me, if I can find the tab again, people still are showing a bit of cautiousness. And I think Ethereum might be the main reason, Maxim, because it's been drawing people back into it and away from the latest and greatest meme coins. There's still plenty of that going on.
How the meme coins are doing in terms of social dominance? Show me the chart or highlight.
So this is the pink by itself. You can see how they were really dominating at the end of April, early May.
Yeah. Okay.
And of course we topped, because that's what usually happens when meme coins are peaking. So once prices dropped, people said, okay, we better jump out of meme coins. That was the top for crypto. And then, of course, we have a very short pause, and then we launch again. Meme coins start to get hot again here on May 9th. This was 1 week ago from today. And then we start to retrace again. So now we're kind of back to neutral.
Okay.
So yeah, this is, as we talk about this, for those unfamiliar, meme coin social dominance is a very good top indicator. It doesn't mean it's a bottom indicator when they're not being talked about, but especially when they're talked about a lot, that's when you want to be a little bit weary that we might be seeing a top and it's a good time to profit. Now I have ENS here. That was from a couple weeks ago, so I guess we won't go over it. It still looks like it's been doing pretty well. It's up to number 88 market cap wise. Maybe we do a few things on the social end, and we can end the call with Balresh giving us a few crypto requests if there are any. Otherwise, we can look at Ethereum and a few top caps ourselves.
Or into, you remember this, our chart layout we had in the past? Dolphins and sharks in their holdings?
Oh, sure. Yeah, let's jump back and look at the tiers here. So right now we have 10 to 10.
No, I mean on stablecoins.
Yeah, okay, we can do that too. I have a pre-loaded template. So for stable coins, the default one I have is the smart money, the $100K to $10 million holders. And they've been rising since mid-April. They hold a lot more of the total supply of stable coins than they have in quite a while. Now, when you define stablecoin dolphins, Maxim, what range would you suggest for that?
I can share with you my already existing chart layout. Wait a second.
Yeah.
Explore recently viewed. Yeah. Oh, you like it? It shows interesting picture. I'll share it in our market intelligence channel. Yeah.
Got it.
We got no questions or input so far for assets.
No problem. Okay, opening Maxim's template here. Okay, so what do we see? We've got 10K to 100K, which would be the dolphins, I presume, and then 100K to $1 million.
Everyone is accumulating stables. So they're still not in, right? Their balances are keep increasing, yeah?
Mm-hmm. So would you take this as they're moving fiat into crypto for more?
No, I'm just seeing it as they're not buying.
Okay.
Or not buying massively. they rather prefer to use it as opportunity to realize profits, which I also saw, or I also see on the level of network realized profit loss in Bitcoin. You saw it, yeah? It was quite strong levels of realized profit losses.
Yeah, let's jump down to that because we've seen a pretty consistent high level of realized profits, and usually that's a sign that the rally can continue.
Yeah.
They aren't huge. I actually thought it would be a little bit bigger than this, but they're pretty consistent at least.
They're consistent, yeah.
Yeah. We can even zoom out a little because these are very short term. If we go to like daily, and then we zoom out just to compare to like the last 3 months. Yeah, I mean, they are a lot higher. You're right, Maxim, over the past 3 weeks, and they've been consistent.
Yeah. So this combination on one side, those having reasonably big wallets, not shrimps, increasing their stablecoin holdings and profits in Bitcoin being realized. I don't know. It still looks a kind of and retail is not increasing their holdings, keep decreasing Bitcoin. I don't know. This looks kind of on the bullish side.
Yeah.
The only thing I don't really like is our scraper from Twitter predictions. You know, this new tool which is completely internal. It's not public.
Oh, okay.
It's really 95% and more. Everything, most influencers are so many bullish predictions. This I don't like. It's really too much. So it has to be removed. I don't know. Maybe I don't know. Just an assumption. Maybe we stay in the range market for 3-5 more days. I don't know. So that at least there is some incoming level of not so bullish predictions, I hope. And then we can realize this potential of what we see is that people taking profits, increasing stablecoin holdings. Yeah. Otherwise, we need to go do into it correction to remove this too many bullish statements. Yeah, too many bullish statements.
Right.
I don't like it.
Yeah, for the short term, it does still seem that people are hesitant. They're not as greedy as you would think on a rally that's been, what, Bitcoin is up about 24% over the past month. That's a pretty big pump, but the greed is kind of subtle. There definitely is a little bit of greedy bias, but very little. And network realized profit is indicating we can still pump. It just seems as though we could very well test the all-time high, unless something with the China tariffs, put a cog in that wheel. The FOMC next decides on interest rates in about 3 weeks. Based on this pump, though, I would assume that it's very unlikely we see a change in interest rates because the whole point is to give a boost to the economy when it's struggling, like it was in April, and it's not struggling. I mean, we haven't looked at the S&P comparison yet. I just want to see if it's fully recovered. Yeah, it's pretty much back to March. It's surpassed the dump that it saw in early April, and it's actually up about, the S&P's up 4.5% since that day right before it crashed now. So it not only fully recovered, it's already rewarded the many people who bought the dip back here. So in Bitcoin, same thing. It's very close to its January all-time high now. Gold has actually struggled a bit because people are feeling more confident in the macroeconomic scenario and assuming that the tariff stuff will be resolved.
Yeah.
So a few other things. I also wanted to look at mean dollar invested age. And also the social narratives I wanted to show as well. Oh, while we're here, MVRV So this shows that the 30-day MVRV is at about plus 6.7%, which is typically a sign we're getting a little bit toppy, but the danger zone, we're nowhere near it. That's way up here. So if the orange line is way up at plus 15, that's when you really need to worry. We're just slightly above average. So there isn't a ton of risk in buying or opening a new position right now. Long term, plus 20%. That's a bit concerning. But this is a very slow moving MVRV. For the short term, it doesn't have much effect. And then mean dollar invested age. Look at this, Maxim. So we are continuing to drop.
Oh.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay. Can you take 1 year? I just want
to... let's back
no,
up
1 year, 1 year, like long time, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Yeah, so this what we discussed before, network realized profit losses, they are showing the results. It's really quite substantial profits have been taken.
Yeah. This is age consumed, by the way, not network realized profit loss. But yeah, on a similar note to network realized profit loss, this is definitely dropping. It's gone down about 11 days or so on average. So that's not quite the huge drop that we saw during the bull cycle in late 2024, but it's definitely moving down, indicating plenty of stagnant money is moving back into circulation right now, and that helps justify future rises.
Okay.
Supply and exchange is also staying very low, good long-term indicator. Social dominance is pretty steady, just going up and down, mostly for Bitcoin. Weighted sentiment, we don't use it as much these days, but for what it's worth, it is quite bullish. And then RSI for the TA traders out there, it is somewhat high at about 69.3 right now. Oh, this one also is important, Maxim, the total amount of holders. Definitely going up. It's kind of stagnated a little bit in the last 2 weeks, but going all the way back to February, the 3-month rise is about almost 700,000 new holders compared to what we saw then.
Okay, that's a lot.
So we actually prefer, for bottoms, we prefer that holders are dropping out. I think overall, Maxim, you probably would agree. We're seeing a little more argument for a little more growth before we top out. This is not investment advice, but I would believe, based on the news that we have now and the situation we're in, we'll probably see a test of the all-time high. I don't know if we're going to breach it, but 107 to 109K, we would see then a ton of attention to crypto. Media latches on, depending on how quickly we grow into it. Is there going to be a little pause there? Are we going to try to plow right through 109 for a new all-time high? That's when we'll see how the crowd reacts. And if they get super FOMO fever, we'll top out, and a lot of people will get punished for trying to buy, anticipating the all-time high. But if it's a very slow growth and nothing changes with the tariffs or the FOMC, that's when we can very well see at least a short breach of that all-time high. Maybe we get to 110, 115, but it's very difficult to tell because we're in this kind of artificial situation, Maxim, in my opinion, where we have all these tariffs still looming, but they're being kicked down the road. So people are like, we can relax and pump our investments for now and not worry. But at any time we can hear, the negotiations between China and the US have broken down, and then everything just collapses all over again, like it did in early April. So it's fascinating and hard to predict, but based on what I'm seeing, things are at least looking pretty decent. I'm going to do a quick hard refresh on alpha narratives, and we can show this and then maybe close with a little bit of Ethereum analysis, if that sounds good to you, Maxim.
Yeah, of course, yeah.
So we're definitely seeing a bit of a growth in AI right now. That's standing out. Not extreme, but definitely a little bit more interest.
What is this green spike?
Yeah, this is the big one. This is whales. So a lot of people are paying attention to what looks like Ethereum Dogecoin, Polkadot, institutional investors accumulating Bitcoin and driving up prices. They're talking about a hyper-liquid whale that's making risky moves with leveraged trades. Abraxas Capital buying a significant amount of Ethereum.
Okay. So they're talking mostly about institutional investment into Bitcoin and Ethereum. Okay.
Right. And it seems like the Coinbase futures trading for Bitcoin and Ethereum is lumped into the whale discussion as well.
Okay.
So there might be a little bit of increased volume going into the futures trading among institutionals, so the high volume or high capital traders. And that's just happening in the past 24 hours. So that should be a topic maybe we'll cover in an insight today. I see Michael Saylor was talked about a lot yesterday. His strategy of consistently buying large amounts of Bitcoin is a topic. He now has about $1.34 billion worth of crypto. The idea that ignoring Bitcoin today could result in significant financial losses in the future. Game theory behind why nation states may choose to adopt Bitcoin rather than attack it. Yeah, so Saylor's been in the news again. That's been a consistent theme for the last couple of years, really, but especially as we start to get into these high tier prices, he's being looked at with quite a magnifying glass. Some people think he's a hero that's keeping Bitcoin afloat. Some people are doubting and believing he's too leveraged. And if he gets liquidated, it could really collapse all of crypto, which I think is a decent argument because of the high percentage of supply that he owns him in strategy. So he's always going to be an interesting topic. And if he does another big announcement of accumulation, we'll of course cover that and keep you posted. I see Solana in the news. Lots of bot activity over the last couple of months, really, for Solana. So it's been difficult to tell what's authentic and what's driven by bots. Tariffs actually got a big jump in conversation yesterday. China lifting its ban on Boeing plane deliveries following a tariff truce with the U.S. That's good news. Progress in trade talks between the U.S. and China, impact of tariffs and trade agreements on the market, potential implications of a China-Russia alliance. I'm sure some of you read about this, but that would be a pretty big deal. Honda's expansion in Ontario being put on hold. So that's a little bit of Canadian news. But yeah, the China-Russia alliance could be a very big deal. Obviously, two of the top 5 economies out there. So yes, any positive news toward tariffs and stuff that goes beyond just the 90-day pause that's showing that they're actually coming to a permanent truce, that's going to have a very positive impact on markets. Looking at a few trending words, Coinbase with their futures trading. Also, there was insider-led hacks and bribery of employees alleged, resulting in compromised user data and a $20 million ransom demand. Coinbase's CEO refusing to pay the ransom and offering a bounty to catch the attackers. Coinbase is under SEC investigation for potentially inflating user numbers ahead of its IPO. Of course, some of you may have seen Coinbase is the first crypto stock to enter the S&P 500. Brian Armstrong was proud to announce that earlier this week. So there's definitely some sketchy accusations going on with Coinbase right now. And the ransom demand is scary stuff, of course, but they're leading the conversations in terms of social discussion increases. I see Teeth as number 2 due to discussions comparing their scarcity and value to cryptos like Bitcoin. Conversations highlight that while Teeth have biological scarcity, they lack the unique financial technology. I don't know. I'm not going to get too into this. It might be some meta meme discussion. KYC with Coinbase, Data, Ebu, FTX. That's an interesting one because the bankruptcy stuff is really moving along with the FTX Recovery Trust scheduled for May 30th. So if you were one of the over 5 million people affected by the collapse of FTX a few years ago, stay tuned for May 30th as a big date. Moving on to a few trending coins. There again, you see FTX, Mask at number 2, Bitcoin at 3, XRP 4, EOS number 5. So these are the assets that are driving markets right now. And maybe we just close off really quick with a 3 to 5 minute check on Ethereum, Maxim. Do you have any strong metrics you've been keeping an eye on for ETH?
For ETH? Well, the bottom formation was around negative sentiment, so we might change. I don't know if the straightforward sentiment we are using or you're using when you compare positive negative, if it will work here nicely. Let's see.
Yeah, we see this huge positive spike here.
Oh, this is not good.
Yeah, it's too noisy. Far too noisy right now. But you're right. I mean, from a bullish or bearish standpoint.
So if it cools down to the level you see there is a kind of relatively neutral level, then we can push in higher, because Ethereum, it was suppressed for too long time. So Ethereum, my second favorite is Ton. No one talks about, but I mean, they used to be and Telegram by itself as an application or platform is very good. Yeah, Hyperliquid used to be super cool. Now everyone's talking about. Still be maybe it's okay. Anyway, for Ethereum, it's sentiment, and yeah, we need to come out with something. Yeah, I need to think about right from the top of my head. Cannot come out with one metric. Yeah, well, except the elective addresses, just activity, typical network activity on Ethereum is okay.
Yeah, and that's been pretty high. I was checking this the other day. So circulation active addresses. This is the last full day, so ignore this point. But we're definitely seeing spikes. We saw one on May 8th, and then we saw one yesterday. Fridays, for some reason, are very big for Ethereum. So network activity has been improving. If we go back like a full year, you can see that it is on the rise. It's very noisy with all of these lines. But if you just look at daily active addresses by itself, it's climbing back up. It looks pretty healthy right now as people have been FOMOing into it. The other thing is MVRV, Maxim. So the 365 day is actually still in negative. So that, because Ethereum was so underperforming for the last couple of years, really, even on this rally, we're still seeing that on average, wallets that have been active in the past year are down money. Meanwhile, the short-term 30-day, they're up quite high, as you would expect, but they've at least come down a little bit as Ethereum has ranged for the past few days. But yeah, that's pretty much it, guys. I think, you know, my feeling is that we can go just a little higher, and the big test will be around that 107 to 109K level.
Oh, Brian, look at this chart, a ratio of daily on-chain transactions. Yeah. So if we compare to the previous stop, which was, I don't know, when was it? Some time ago, yeah? 5 months ago, 6 months ago?
December, yeah.
Yeah.
Lots of profit.
I'm thinking, do we have here a pattern or not? Difficult.
Well, it's very noisy. We could even make it a week.
No, week will be probably too aggregated. Now need to take daily, yeah? Or can you select just this? You can take daily, but we select the time frame for the whole increase for that last stop in January, yeah? Take daily, but yeah, exactly. Yeah. So
okay.
No, on the left side. I want to see how it was the last time. Will we find any pattern? Yeah.
A little further back.
Yes, and then the end date shorten, make it shorter. End date, move it back. Yeah.
Like back here.
Yeah, more. Just to see shortly at top and shortly thereafter, like 1 week after the top.
Okay, so all the way back to like the end of 2024.
Yes. Okay, yeah. So I want to see, and now, now too much.
Almost. Hold on.
Yeah.
I'm kind of eyeballing it. There we go.
Well, maybe kind of divergence. I don't know. Difficult, yeah.
Yeah, this works a little different than network realized profit loss, where I tend to see a lot of tops when there are big spikes in profit transactions.
Okay.
And then opposite. So it's kind of an inverse correlation when you see very negative days, like here in mid-October, that's when bottoms form. And if they're super high, you see short-term tops.
Okay.
So currently, if we just look at the last month, yeah, I mean, these were the top indicators here. It's pretty low now. If it gets below 1.0 typically, which means there's an even amount of profits and losses, something like right there. Yeah, just about. So we are getting more loss transactions than profit. So there were a lot of people FOMOing in back on May 12th, and they're now seeing Ethereum go down a little, and they're just selling at a slight loss. So that's actually a good sign for Ethereum short term, that it can bounce up again. But it's not extreme. It's just very slightly at a loss.
Okay.
But yeah, any comments before we conclude the stream, Brother Max?
Ideal scenario. We stay sideways for 3 more days, and we see emergence of cautious tweets. Then it's ideal for going up. Otherwise, we need to prepare for correction. Yeah.
Agreed. I think the sentiment over the next week is going to be super telling, and anything tariff related. So we'll keep you posted with a lot of insights and updates about the markets. And Max, pleasure speaking to you as always. It's wonderful hearing your take about the markets, and I'm already looking forward to updating next week, see where we're at.
Talk to you next week. Yeah, thank you.
Take care, guys. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.